What's going on, guys? I'm Tommy, and I'm coming at you with an action figure review. Today I'm going to be reviewing Hasbro The Black Series, Poe Dameron, and First Order Riot Control Stormtrooper 2-pack. If you didn't already pick up on it, this is a very old release, and this is about 10 years old as of the making of this review. The reason that I picked this up was because I'm a huge collector of the First Order faction. I love having my display of Black Series First Order Stormtroopers and all the military ranks, so this is one that I didn't have, and I was like, hey, it's an excuse to get another Stormtrooper on the shelf. I picked this up for about $15 at ICC-Con in Nashville, Tennessee. I picked this up at ICC-Con 2024. Make sure to go check out ICC-Con. I have tons of links to it. I have a whole channel in my Discord just where I share news for that convention. It's an amazing place. It's like the mecca of the Black Series corner of collecting, where we all go out and meet up together, all the YouTubers. It's very, very fun, and I highly recommend going. So this 2-pack is pretty straightforward. I mean, this is what the standard packaging was for 2-packs back in the day when they were doing the red and black box style of packaging. Up at the top here on the front, you have your Black Series logo, a really nice big plastic window showing you both the figures and all their accessories, and this is back in the day when they would pose some of the accessories in the figures' hands pretty regularly. I think it's pretty funny that they used to do that. On the bottom left here, you have both of the names of the characters. For the Stormtrooper, you have the name in a couple different languages for some reason, and then on the bottom right, you have those really cool Titus illustrations in that black and white there. Look very, very nice. On this side here, where you would usually have the number for like mainline releases, you just have some lines with the names of the characters again. On the back of the box, you have some bios for both the characters, along with both those images we saw in the front of the box blown up a bit, your Black Series logo at the top again. Let's read these bios that are in about 1,000 different languages. Poe Dameron's bio reads, an ace pilot, Poe Dameron is a leader in the Resistance's fight against the evil First Order. He soars into battle behind the controls of a modern X-Wing fighter. And for the First Order Riot Control Stormtrooper, armed with specialized weapons, the First Order's Riot Control Stormtroopers are trained to subdue crowds in the most ruthlessly efficient manner possible. Of course, here at the bottom you have all your legalese, guys. Please don't feed these action figures to your babies. On this side of the packaging, you have again that wraparound window with in this kind of darker gray text, a very blown up partial version of the names of one of the characters, as well as again that red there showing the names of the characters. On the bottom, you have just a bunch of more legalese, things like that, your barcode, and at the top, just a little bit of a cutout window to let that light through the top of the box. Now that we've covered the packaging, let's get this set open so we can check out these figures. Alright guys, now that we've got everything out of the box, let's take a look at the figures and their accessories. Now, a couple things I really want to point out here. Yes, this set has been sitting in the packaging for about 10 years now, but a couple things I wanted to point out. First, I don't know what is going on with these figures. This was a sealed set. It had never been opened before. When I pulled these figures out of the box, they had this like weird texture to them. I have this weird like texture on my hands. I'm not sure what's going on with these guys. And also, dude, look at Poe's legs, how warped these are from the packaging. His legs, his knees are like hyperextended sideways. This is hilarious. There's a couple interesting things that I want to get into, specifically with the Stormtrooper, but why don't we just start with the accessories, and we'll just go right out the bat. I'll talk about the accessory that was in the Stormtrooper's hand here. And again, I wasn't collecting Black Series heavily until about 2019, 2020, so I didn't catch any of these releases when they first came out. This accessory, unlike subsequent releases of this Stormtrooper, this accessory does not articulate like the newer ones do. They did a newer version of the Stormtrooper for the Rise of Skywalker kind of wave of figures they released back in 2019. They did things like update the helmet to make it a little bit larger, and then this accessory here articulated, where these pieces on the top and the bottom here did extend exactly how they do in The Force Awakens. I don't think they knew this when they did this figure, because these pieces do not articulate. This is just one solid piece done on a white sculpt here. It's got some nice paint applications with the silver, the black, and the red. Everything looks really nice here, but yeah, just super interesting that they chose not to make it articulate. I don't think they knew this might have been one of those releases that came out with the movie, so they might have just gone with what they had at the time. Moving on, it's very nice that they include some of the accessories that come with most of the First Order Stormtroopers. I think this is the F11 blaster rifle, if I'm correct. This one's really nice with that black and white, and again, some silver paint applications on there as well. I do really like the look of this blaster. And then they keep a uniform look with the SE-44C blaster pistol. This one's really nice, again, that two-toned black and white look, some minor silver paint applications as well. And there is a clip on both of these blasters here. You'll see these little slots. This one's in black on the pistol, it's in white on the blaster rifle, and you can attach these to the right thigh. And then, of course, the last accessory would be the Riot shield, which is attached to the figure in this case. You'll see it's got some nice paint applications with some pearlescent dark gray and then some black and silver as well for the kind of rivets on the corners. And then you'll see some more paint applications on the inside. I was unable to remove this from his arm. I feel like I'm actually going to break the figure if I try and remove this, so I don't know if it's meant to be removed, but in the event that it's not, and because I'm posing him with it anyway for the display, we're just going to leave it on the figure for now. As for our warped disabled Poe Dameron, he comes with two accessories. The first one is going to be his blaster rifle. I believe this is the HFE blaster rifle, if I remember, HFE 16 or something like that. It's got a nice wash on it. I like the dirtiness, the griminess of the middle of the blaster here. It's very chunky. It's a very different design, a lot more basic than what you see with the First Order Stormtrooper, but it's a cool enough accessory nonetheless. And then, of course, this is a really cool accessory. You get Poe Dameron's helmet, and I think it's interesting the way they've done this. So it looks like it's sculpted in the color of this transparent yellow for the visor, and then they did all the rest of it are paint applications. I feel like with all the printing and the paint you see here, and look at that New Republic symbol right there on the top there, I think this is great. I mean, this is a level of detail I feel like you wouldn't see. Like, look at all that Arabesh printing on the helmet there. That's pretty cool. This is something that I feel like you wouldn't see with newer figures. I feel like they would not go through this much effort for an accessory like this. Very, very cool. And really, that's something of a bygone era, is how much detail they paid attention to with accessories in the Black Series. Okay, so we'll set Poe off to the side. Please stay standing for me with those warped knees. And now we're going to take a look at the First Order Stormtrooper. So, like I said, I don't know if this figure's like disintegrating, but there's like this weird texture and like powder on some of the figure. I'm definitely going to wash my hands after this review is over. But yeah, this guy's been sitting in the box for about 10 years now. I think we're about due for a new First Order Stormtrooper for the Black Series, but taking a look, this is the original version of him. It's a pretty basic figure. I mean, on the belt here, you'll see it's sculpted in black. You got a lot of white paint applications. Some of them are kind of bleeding, a little bit messy there. And that's really it. I mean, he's got some nice detail work on the visor, on the helmet here. I mean, the figure's very nice to look at, and that's what I will say. That's a reason I collect these, is because I think that as a unit, the First Order looks really, really cool. I've been really enjoying the way that these figures look as a cohesive army. I think that that's one thing the sequel trilogy did really well, was the look and designs of the First Order military. I think it's very, very nice. I've reviewed a few First Order Stormtroopers on the channel now, so you guys should know what you're getting into with this figure if you've watched some of my other reviews. But yeah, I really don't have much to say. There's nice paint applications on him. Let's cover his articulation real quick. So this guy, this articulation style really makes me appreciate what we have now here in 2025. But he does have a single ball and hinge at the top of the neck here, so you're going to get a little bit of down and a little bit of up. You're going to get maybe it's some tilt, but it's not really going to stick, and of course right and left. And then at the shoulders, he does have another hinge and swivel. You'll see the shoulders can get to almost 90 degrees there, just shy of it, and the shoulders can swivel a full 360 degrees. At the elbows here, you have a single joint here. I won't call it deep cut because it doesn't get you any more than 45 degrees, if that, and there is a swivel at the top of the elbow as well. And then at the wrists, there are hinge and swivels too. So the wrists do swivel, and there is a horizontal hinge at both the right wrist and the left wrist. And you'll see that he does have like a faux trigger finger hand on the left hand there, and he does have a true trigger finger hand on the right there. And again, what is this texture that's all over this figure? I don't know What's going on here? Very, very strange. He does have a ball joint at the midsection. That's got some really, really nice range of motion. Honestly, the best articulation this figure probably has. He's got some ball joints at the hips, which very nice that this overlay for the belt rides up so that it doesn't get in the way here, and you can actually bring those legs out pretty far. But again, nice articulation there. There is a cut for a thigh swivel that's hidden underneath the thigh armor. The right one seems to be working, but that left one seems like it's stuck. Oh, there we go. He's got some ugly pinned double jointed knees, something I do not miss in the Black Series at all. These do have better range than the single joints, but my issue with them comes from this. Just looks really, really bad from the front, very chunky. And then on the ankles here, you have a forward-facing pin for rocker, as well as a hinge, which is gonna get you some nice forward and some very nice back. For 2015, this was probably a pretty acceptable figure. I mean, the only really egregious thing to me is how little the elbows can bend. I feel like if the elbows could bend more, this figure would be a lot better. And this is an issue that they did correct on subsequent releases of the First Order Stormtrooper. Now, let's take a look at Poe Dameron. So obviously, this release predates the days of photoreal, and wow, is it blaringly different than what we're used to with today's Black Series releases. You've got basic face paint. This does not look anything like Oscar Isaac to me. I think that the paint they chose to do his 5 o'clock shadow is questionable at best. It looks like just slathered on paint. And the eyes, they're kind of looking off to the right here. One is definitely bigger than the other. And the hair is sculpted nice. I will say the head is sculpted very nice, but the paint is just very poor. And then, of course, there's the jacket. Now, the jacket's really cool. There's a nice wash all over the jacket here, and it looks like it has a lot of depth. It looks like it's been used for a while, and I really like that look. The red paint on the top here, as well as the silver, also adds great detail there. I think the sculpt work on these figures is great. I think it's really just the articulation where they lack, and I will say they've done a great job at washes. I wish they would do those on newer figures. The body of the jacket is kind of like a rubbery overlay piece, revealing the shirt underneath. The shirt is painted, but there is no other real detail there. He does have the belt, which is painted with the nice silver belt buckle there, and then the pants are pretty plain. Again, very nice sculpt work. There are lots of folds and ridges here, and then for some reason they painted the knees this really bright, like olive green color. It's a strange choice. I don't know that it's accurate to the movie, but you know, this is like 10 years ago, so I'm not gonna try and like take a piss on these figures, you know, too much, because they're very old, and obviously it's not to today's standards, but it shouldn't be. You know, obviously the line has improved in 10 years. The boots are very barren. There is no wash or anything like that. I think the boots could have really used a wash. They probably could have taken this paint application from the knees and applied it down to the boots. But aside from that, I mean, the sculpt does look good. As far as articulation goes, this guy is extremely dated articulation. So he has a ball and hinge at the top of the neck here too. So he can look down just a little bit. I can't really look up much at all. He can't really get any tilt, and he can look right and left. He has a hinge and swivel at the shoulders here. The shoulders are going to get you actually to that 90-degree mark, and they do swivel a full 360 degrees. He does have a single jointed elbow, which does actually get you to 90 degrees, so that's really nice there. And there is also a swivel at the top of the elbow. He also has hinge and swivels at the wrists, so both wrists swivel, and then the right has that horizontal hinge. And of course, they were obsessed with the horizontal hinges back in 2015, so it's that way on both hands. He has a trigger finger hand for the right hand, no trigger finger for the left hand. He actually only has a swivel, it seems, at the midsection. They didn't even bother to give you a ball joint. It's literally just a swivel, which is crazy. And then he has ball joints at the hips, which do give you some decent range there. They have okay range. The overlay of the jacket really doesn't affect the articulation of the hips. He does have cuts for thigh swivel at the middle of the thigh there, which gives you some good range. And he has those ugly pinned double jointed knees, and even though they're warped, they do still bend. You can get some really nice range out of those. But again, especially because they don't paint the underneaths of the joint here, this is what I mean. This is why it just looks so jarring, and just to today's standards, not very seamless. And then at the bottom here, he does have that forward-facing pin for rocker at the boot, and he has the hinge that goes forward a little bit and back a little bit. Overall, this is very dated articulation. For 2015, I don't even know that this would be up to standards. It's very subpar, actually, in my opinion, compared to our First Order Stormtrooper. So let's get these guys with accessories in hand, and we'll get them posed up. So taking a look at the little Riot baton here, I don't even know that I'm going to really pose this guy with this, because I mean, he can't do anything with it. I mean, unless you have it posed backwards like this, like the one Stormtrooper does in The Force Awakens. I really don't see a reason to have this in his hand at all, which is very interesting. Again, I don't know if this is something they just didn't know before the movie came out, but a very interesting choice here. You obviously, like I was saying earlier, you do have weapon storage for those blasters, so the blaster rifle does sit very nicely on the thigh armor there, and it passes the shake test. You can also put that blaster into his right hand. The trigger finger sits nicely in that trigger guard, and you can't really achieve much posing with him, especially it's going to look very silly with the shield in hand because the elbow bend is just so poor. The blaster pistol does also fit into that slot, just like the blaster rifle. Again, very nice taut connection there, passes the shake test. And then this is another blaster that you can also fit into that right hand. Trigger finger, again, fits very nicely through the trigger guard there. And this is one that you could actually pose pretty nicely here because it is a one-handed blaster. Now taking a look at Poe here, you can actually put that helmet over the head. This actually helps the figure a lot, I would say. From the front, it actually looks decent, but when you look at the back here, I don't know if this is just because it's warped from being in the packaging or if this is just a really bad removable helmet job, but this is just not my favorite, so I wasn't going to pose this figure on my display anyway, but it's pretty upsetting because this accessory looks so good. It's a shame that it's just not working on the figure. And then of course his blaster here, you can fit that into the right hand. We saw it in the packaging already. Fits nicely in the trigger, and you can hold that in one hand, or we can attempt a two-handed grip here. And this is where the difference between these two figures really starts to show. I mean, look at the dynamic pose I'm able to very easily get with the Stormtrooper here, holding that blaster pistol, shielding himself. Meanwhile, Poe Dameron, this is really all you can do as far as two-handed poses go with this blaster rifle. It's very unfortunate, but again, it's a very dated figure, and I think Hasbro has improved a lot since then. Obviously, with these figures being so dated, it was much more difficult to get them into dynamic one-legged running poses than newer figures. However, it is still doable, and I think these poses actually look pretty decent, and these would be able to sustain on your shelf. So ultimately, guys, I'd say this pack is definitely a pass. I mean, if you're not a nut job who just buys First Order Stormtroopers for dirt cheap like me, then this is definitely not a pack that you would enjoy. I do think, however, it is extremely telling of just how far the Black Series has come in 10 short years. I think that a lot of people are very, very critical of the Black Series, and I think sometimes it's important to take that step back and just remember how far we've come, and there's always room for improvement, yes, but we've definitely come leaps and bounds from where we were just 10 years ago. With that being said, guys, I hope you enjoyed this review. If you did and you're not yet subscribed, subscribe to Blitz Transmissions. I've got awesome Star Wars content coming out all the time. If you are an ARC Trooper in my Patreon or a Rancor Battalion channel member here on YouTube, you would have seen this review early if you'd like access to early reviews, or as far as Patreon goes, access to early content and monthly giveaways and more. The links are in the description below, as well as the links to my Discord and all my social media. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this review. I'll catch you for the next one, and may the Force be with you.
Breaking off all units. Fire at will. Squad 2, pick your targets. Too many, Captain. Watch your stabilizer, Gold 6. Anybody cover me. I got 2 vultures on my tail. You've got to hold them here. Watch your left. I can't shake them. I'm hit. I'm hit.